Night settles over a wooden house in Kyoto. Tatami creaks. A lamp flickers. On the floor, wrapped in cloth white as moonlight, lies a sword that will never again be worn at the hip. The man kneeling before it does not move. He has received the decree, Haitore, the Sword Abolishment Edict of 1876, and he has obeyed, not because he agrees, not because he fears punishment, but because the world he served has vanished. The sword is silent. The house is silent. His future is silent. He touches the handle with 2 fingers, as if checking the pulse of a dying friend. Nothing stirs. No battle was fought for this moment. No rebellion, no last stand. The samurai did not fall. They were simply told to stop being samurai, and the strangest part is that they did. But the disappearance was not a single event. It was a long unraveling, a quiet scattering of men into professions that felt like afterlives. This is the story of what happened after the sword, a story of warriors who became something else: policemen, clerks, teachers, outlaws, craftsmen, wandering through new identities like ghosts. Morning mist rises above a training courtyard in Tokyo, 1878. A row of men kneel on gravel. Their hair is cropped short. Their swords are gone. At their sides lie wooden batons. They are former samurai, men raised on ancestral honor, now learning to serve in Japan's first modern police force. The instructors shout commands borrowed from Western drills. Boots scrape gravel. Wooden batons thud against training posts. The sound is clumsy, as if the room itself rejects the substitution. To these men, enforcing the law feels less like duty and more like penance. A decade earlier, they would have enforced justice with a blade drawn under a full moon, a grim efficiency rewarded by lords and ancestors alike. Now they stand in uniforms stitched from foreign cloth, patrolling streets for pickpockets and tax evaders. Their orders come from bureaucrats half their age. Still, the government trusts them. The old samurai discipline, the stillness, the endurance, transfers well to police work. Many officers come from warrior families who once served daimyo. The Meiji government needs their loyalty, needs their backbone, needs their willingness to face danger without flinching. But not all of them adapt to this strange rebirth. Some men patrol with too much force, memories of battlefield clarity contaminating the judgment needed for modern law. Others drink heavily after night rounds, murmuring about a time when their authority came from birth, not salary. In certain districts, survivors of the Satsuma Rebellion, the last true samurai uprising, now walk the same streets they once defended with blades. Their former comrades, defeated and buried, linger in memory each time they see their reflection in a police officer's uniform. Still, they do the work. They break up brawls, escort prisoners, stand at street corners during festivals. The baton becomes an extension of their hand, though it never feels natural. Years pass. The same men who once vowed loyalty to lords now file arrest reports. Some rise through the ranks, becoming respected officers. Others fade into anonymous duty, warriors whose skills have been redirected, not extinguished. In the new world, the police station replaces the castle. The patrol route replaces the battle line, and the samurai, sworn to protect still, just in ways their ancestors would never recognize. Ink has replaced blood. Paper has replaced battlefield mud. In a cramped government office in 1885, a former samurai sits at a wooden desk. He was once taught that his signature could authorize executions. Now it approves warehouse shipments. His brushstrokes are deliberate, too careful. The calligraphy of a warrior trapped in Clerks' work. Stacks of documents rise around him like walls. Land surveys, rice tax calculations, census forms. A whole country modernizing at once, and the paperwork groans under its own weight. The room smells of wet ink, old tatami, and something almost mournful. the quiet frustration of men who trained their whole lives for combat, now condemned to push brushes instead of blades. Some clerks still carry themselves like warriors. Their posture is straight, their gaze unblinking. They bow with precision. Their courtesy slices the air like a practiced strike. But these gestures become signals without meaning, relics that the younger generation sees as eccentric. Other samurai-turned-bureaucrats struggle more visibly. They grip their brushes too tight. Ink pools where it shouldn't. Their hands tremble, not from age, but from holding tools never meant for them. Yet the government depends on them. Former samurai are literate, disciplined, loyal to structure. They fill the offices of ministries, courts, tax agencies. They stamp documents with the same decisiveness they once used to seal battle orders. Still, they cannot escape the irony. They preserve the very government that dismantled their class. Some keep their swords under their desks, wrapped in cloth, hidden but present. When the office goes quiet, they may touch the scabbard, not to mourn the weapon, but to remember the version of themselves that once wielded it. Their children grow up knowing paperwork, not warfare. Their grandchildren forget the sword exists. By the time Tokyo's streets glow with electric lamps, the old clerks have become part of the machinery of the modern state, necessary, invisible, and quietly haunted by the knowledge that their skills once shaped provinces, not ledgers. They have become paper warriors, fighting battles measured not in death, but in ink. In a cold schoolhouse on a rural hillside, a former samurai writes the kanji for kokoro on a blackboard. The heart, the spirit. The children watch his strokes, deliberate, powerful, as controlled as a sword cut. He teaches reading, arithmetic, and ethics. Shushin, the moral code that replaces Confucian warrior teachings with something gentler. He does not speak of duels or battlefield legends, but everything about him, from his posture to the precision of his words, reveals the discipline he once lived by. At first, students fear him, then respect him, then admire something they cannot name, a quality they feel but do not understand. Many samurai turn to teaching during the Meiji reforms. Their literacy makes them valuable, their stoicism exemplary. They instill old virtues in young minds: perseverance, honor, humility, self-control. These teachings become the backbone of Japan's modern identity, long after the swords are gone. Some teachers hang their armor in school entryways, not as weapons, but as artifacts. Dust collects in the gaps. Spiders spin threads inside helmets. Children point at them in awe, unaware that the armor once belonged to the man writing quiet lessons on the board. Occasionally, during a story lesson, the teacher pauses. He remembers his youth, the feel of armor plates, the clatter of shin guards, the weight of a sword at his side. Then he blinks, returns to the present, and continues the lesson as if nothing stirred inside him. Teaching becomes a refuge, a way to transform martial discipline into guidance rather than violence, a gentle form of redemption, not from guilt, but from purposelessness. Some evenings when the children leave, the teacher remains in the empty classroom. He sweeps the floor with slow strokes, the same rhythm as polishing a blade. His mind clears. The broom becomes a harmless echo of a sword. The warrior in him sleeps lightly, but peacefully. For the first time, his strength creates rather than destroys. But not every samurai finds dignity in transformation. In the back alleys of port towns like Yokohama and Kobe, lantern light falls on men wearing tattered kimono and cheap sandals. They drink in narrow taverns where the floorboards stick to their feet. They gamble in smoky rooms. They guard smuggling routes at night. These men were samurai. Now they are yakuza, enforcers, bodyguards, extortionists. They slip from discipline into desperation, from pride into survival. The collapse of stipends, the government's decision to stop paying former samurai salaries, hits hardest here. Men who once lived by the sword now cannot afford rice. Their armor is pawned. Their blades are sold to foreigners or stored in attic corners. Families break apart. Homelessness rises. For some, the only skills they possess are force and fearlessness. Crime accepts both. Gambling rings recruit former retainers. Smugglers hire men who know night paths better than city guards. Moneylenders use ex-samurai as muscle to collect debts. These men do not follow the romantic code of Bushido. They follow necessity. Yet their violence still carries the shadow of old discipline, precise, restrained, unspoken. Among early yakuza groups, remnants of samurai etiquette survive. Bowing before entering a meeting, sitting Caesar during negotiations, addressing leaders with archaic honorifics. The rituals outlive the honor that once birthed them. Some Ronin keep a single mantra. A warrior must serve something, even if the something is a crime lord. But beneath their loyalty lies a sorrow, a shame too heavy to name. They drink to forget the feel of a sword grip. They fight to drown the memory of battles won with dignity. And when illness or age weakens them, they die nameless, one more shadow in a port city alley. This is the darkest legacy of the transformation. Not the violence, but the slow erosion of men who were never taught how to be anything but warriors. Deep in the mountain villages of Bizin, a swordsmith's forge grows cold. The Tatara furnace, once fed with days of charcoal and iron sand, has not been lit for weeks. The hammer rests on the anvil like a monument. Tools hang untouched. Dust drifts in morning shafts of light. A millipede crawls across a polishing stone meant for razor edges. The swordsmith sits nearby, older than he appears, hands stained from years of work that now has no destination. For 1,000 years, men like him forged steel for warriors. Each blade required a lineage: the miner, the smelter, the smith, the polisher, the scabbard maker. Making a sword meant invoking every element: earth, fire, water, breath, into a single edge that could decide a life. But with the Meiji sword ban, the chain collapses. No warriors means no commissions. No commissions means no steel. No steel means the craft begins to die. Some smiths adapt. They forge kitchen knives, farming tools, ceremonial blades with blunt edges. But the transformation is painful. A weapon becomes a utensil. A legacy becomes labor. Others refuse. They keep forging swords no one will carry, polishing edges no one will cut with, performing rituals for weapons destined to remain wrapped in silk, untouched. In some forges, a final rite emerges. The last sword created by a master is not sharpened. It is polished, blessed, then sealed in a wooden box, a coffin for a craft. The smith bows before it, knowing no apprentice will continue his line. As railways spread across Japan and factories rise along the coasts, the old sword villages fall silent. Forges become storerooms. Anvils rust. Polishing stones crack in winter frost. If one listens closely, one might hear the faint ring of a hammer that has not struck metal in decades. An echo, nothing more. The samurai may have vanished from battlefields, but here, in the quiet disappearance of their craftsmen, their absence is felt most painfully. At the end of the 19th century, a strange thing happens in Japan. A whole class of people dissolves, not by war, not by exile, but by transformation. The samurai become policemen wielding batons instead of swords, clerks writing reports instead of decrees, teachers shaping minds instead of battles, criminals living by corrupted shadows of discipline, swordsmiths preserving a craft without warriors. None of these men died as samurai, but none fully lived as their replacements. They did not vanish. They diffused into offices, into classrooms, into alleyways, into silent forges, into the bones of a new nation. Today, modern Japan barely resembles the world they once protected. And yet, Echoes remain. A bow too precise in a police station. A teacher's handwriting with the discipline of a sword stroke. A knife in a kitchen forged by a descendant of warriors smiths. A company leader whose family crest predates electricity. A sense of duty that lingers in unlikely places. The samurai are gone, but their afterlives surround us, not in armor, not in jewels, not in legend, but in the quiet professions where their ghosts found new purpose. Their swords are silent, but their discipline never died.